McMurdo Station, Antarctica. Located on the southern peninsula of Ross Island, this is the largest research station on the continent.
Imagine a world where the stars aren't the only place hiding life. At 3 a.m., a deleted post from Elon Musk's private account sent the internet into a tailspin. The ice isn't just water, it's a shield. For decades, Antarctica has been the world's greatest keep-out sign. But as SpaceX satellites scan the forbidden latitudes, the truth is leaking. This isn't just about aliens, it's about who was here first. Welcome to the Musk's final reveal, the tweet that wasn't. The notification pinged on millions of devices, a ghost in the machine that vanished as quickly as it appeared. For those who caught the screenshot, it wasn't just a cryptic sentence, it was a crack in the foundation of modern history. We've always looked up at the red planet, fueled by Elon's dreams of multiplanetary life. But while our eyes were fixed on the heavens, his sensors were pointed straight down at the most desolate place on Earth. Antarctica is the only landmass on our map that doesn't belong to a country. It is governed by a silent handshake between superpowers, protected by a treaty that seems more like a restraining order. Why would the most competitive nations on the planet suddenly decide to play nice over a block of ice? As we pull back the curtain on the white desert, we find that Musk's recent interest in the South Pole isn't about climate data, it's about data retrieval. From the high-resolution eyes of Starlink to the ground-penetrating radar hidden in the latest Tesla tech, the richest man in the world has been quietly X-raying the bottom of our world. What he found wasn't just frozen mountains, it was a signal. But the truth doesn't just hide in deleted tweets. It hides under 2 miles of solid ice. The forbidden map. If you open a standard globe, the bottom is a convenient white smear. It looks like an afterthought, a frozen cap keeping the oceans from leaking off the edge. But if you look at the flight paths of global aviation, you'll notice a no-fly zone that is larger than the United States and China combined. For decades, the official excuse has been safety. The weather is too unpredictable, or there are no runways for emergency landings. But in the age of Starlink and autonomous drones, those excuses are starting to melt. Elon Musk's SpaceX satellites don't just provide internet to rural farmers. They act as a global mesh of high-frequency sensors. While the public looks at the blue marble photos, the engineers at Hawthorne are looking at something else: the gravitational anomalies. Deep beneath the Ross Ice Shelf, the Earth's pull isn't consistent. There are heavy spots, massive, dense concentrations of matter that shouldn't exist in a land made of ancient snow. The forbidden map isn't just a physical place, it's a digital one. Leaked coordinates from internal SpaceX test flights show drones loitering over a specific coordinate in Piri Bird land, an area so remote it's known as the unclaimed sector. In these forbidden zones, the ice doesn't sag or drift like a natural glacier. It remains perfectly level, suggesting that whatever lies beneath is radiating enough heat to create a structural foundation. When you look at the topography revealed by ground-penetrating radar, the mountains have 90-degree angles. Nature doesn't deal in right angles. Nature is messy, curved, and chaotic. But the maps Musk is reportedly holding show a grid system. It looks like a motherboard etched into the bedrock of a continent that hasn't seen the sun in 30 million years. This is why you can't just charter a plane to the South Pole. You aren't being protected from the cold. You're being prevented from seeing the construction. The map we are taught in school is a lie by omission, a white curtain pulled over a sprawling, subglacial reality that Musk's tech is finally beginning to pierce. If the maps show a city, then the history books must be a fairy tale. Admiral Bird. Long before Elon Musk was scanning the poles with orbital lasers, a man named Admiral Richard E. Bird was staring into the same abyss with nothing but a propeller plane and a compass. In 1946, the United States launched Operation High Jump. On paper, it was a routine training exercise to prepare the Navy for cold weather combat. But the math never added up. To train for the cold, the U.S. sent an armada of 4,700 men, 13 ships, and a carrier. This wasn't a research mission, it was an invasion force. Bird was a hero of the old world, a man who had already earned his stripes flying over both poles. But his return from high jump was marked by a chilling shift in tone. In a famous 1947 interview with the Chilean newspaper El Mercurio, Bird issued a warning that sounds like a fever dream. He stated that the United States must prepare for an invasion by hostile planes coming from the polar regions. He spoke of craft that could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds, technology that didn't exist in any hangar in Washington, Moscow, or London. The legend of Admiral Bird's secret diary has circulated in the dark corners of the internet for decades, claiming he flew into a hollow opening at the pole and met a civilization far more advanced than our own. While historians dismiss the diary as a hoax, the official records of Operation High Jump remain strangely scarred. The mission, scheduled for 6 months, was abruptly terminated after only 8 weeks. Ships were lost, and several men died in accidents that were never fully explained. Musk's fascination with Bird isn't just a billionaire's hobby. Elon often talks about the Fermi paradox, the question of why we haven't seen aliens yet. In private, some say he believes Bird didn't find a hole in the Earth, but a doorway in the ice. The land beyond the pole that Bird described wasn't a magical kingdom. It was a physical sector of Antarctica that is geologically shielded by electromagnetic interference. Bird's maps showed mountain ranges that didn't appear on later satellite imagery, as if the continent itself had been scrubbed or redacted. If you look at the logs of Bird's flagship, the USS Mount Olympus, you see a commander who became obsessed with non-human intelligence long before the term was popular. Musk is simply picking up the signal where Bird's radio went silent. He is using the 21st century equivalent of Bird's Armada, a fleet of thousands of Starlink satellites, to map the very same great unknown. Bird warned us that the poles were a vulnerability. Musk, ever the engineer, sees them as the source. History is repeating itself, but this time, the explorer isn't carrying a flag, he's carrying a modem. If Admiral Bird saw the door, Musk is the one holding the key. SpaceX, the eye in the sky. While the world watches Falcon 9 rockets land on autonomous ships with pinpoint precision, a much quieter and more profound revolution is happening 10 times further up in the blackness of orbit. Starlink is often sold to the public as a philanthropic tool for rural internet access. But its most sophisticated hardware isn't positioned over the suburbs of Ohio, it's hovering over the dead silence of the South Pole. In 2022, SpaceX quietly announced that Starlink was officially operational on all 7 continents, including the frozen wastes of Antarctica. On the surface, this was a win for scientists at McMurdo Station, who wanted to FaceTime their families without a 10-second delay. In reality, it was the final piece of a global surveillance web that sees through the very fabric of the ice. The secret lies in what Musk calls the Space Laser Network. Unlike traditional satellites that must bounce signals to ground stations on the Earth's surface, Musk's polar satellites use optical inter-satellite links. They talk to each other using high-frequency infrared lasers, creating a data mesh that doesn't need a single antenna on the Antarctic soil to function. This means SpaceX can move petabytes of data across the forbidden continent without the oversight of the international treaty inspectors or government bureaucrats. If you're looking for a hidden facility or a subglacial heat signature, you don't need a telescope. You need a network that can measure the literal refraction of light through the atmosphere. In 2024, Musk's Starshield project, a classified military version of Starlink, began launching into high-inclination polar orbits. Amateur satellite trackers recently discovered something alarming. These satellites are emitting mysterious signals in a forbidden frequency band usually reserved for deep space communication. They aren't just sending data down, they are probing. By using the satellites as a massive synthetic aperture radar array, Musk has effectively created a planetary-scale X-ray machine. This system doesn't just see the surface of the ice, it maps the density of what lies beneath it. It can detect hollow voids, metallic structures, and thermal signatures that shouldn't exist in a land frozen for eons. Why would a man obsessed with Mars spend billions mapping the bottom of Earth? The answer is residual capability. If you are building a colony on a frozen, hostile planet, you need to practice. But more importantly, you need to know if someone else has already solved the problem. Elon has often stated that civilization is a tiny candle in a vast darkness. If his satellites have detected a massive non-natural structure under the Antarctic ice, it would be the ultimate insurance policy for humanity. He isn't just looking for aliens, he is looking for their blueprints. The Starlink satellites passing over the pole every 90 minutes are not just providing internet, they are persistent observers. They have caught things that shouldn't be there. Thermal plumes in areas where there are no volcanoes, and electromagnetic bursts that coincide with no known human research schedule. Musk's eye in the sky has turned the continent of mystery into a transparent fishbowl. He isn't waiting for NASA to tell him if we are alone. He is using his own private constellation to verify the rumors that have haunted the Antarctic since the days of the Cold War. When a Starlink terminal at the South Pole connects to the web, it isn't just loading a web page. It is part of a heartbeat, a constant stream of telemetry that monitors the most guarded secret on the planet. The ice can hide many things from a man on the ground, but it cannot hide from 1,000 lasers cutting through the vacuum of space. Musk has effectively put the secret Coverup on a 24/7 live feed, accessible only to those with the decryption keys at SpaceX headquarters. Nature doesn't build in right angles, yet the radar shows a city. The Piri Reis enigma. If Musk's satellites are providing the modern X-ray of the continent, then an ancient piece of gazelle skin provides the ultimate cold case file. In 1929, a map was discovered in Istanbul that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Created by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis in 1513, the map shows the coasts of Africa, the Americas, and most impossibly, the northern coastline of Antarctica. The catch? The map depicts the continent without any ice. According to modern geology, Antarctica hasn't been ice-free for millions of years, yet here was a 16th-century sailor documenting bays, rivers, and mountain ranges that remained hidden from modern man until the invention of subglacial seismic sounding in the 50s. The Piri Reis map isn't just an anomaly, it is an indictment of our timeline. The map itself notes that it was compiled from much older source maps, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. This suggests that a maritime civilization with advanced surveying capabilities existed and mapped the entire globe long before the dawn of recorded history. For someone like Elon Musk, who views history through the lens of technological progression, the Piri Reis map is a smoking gun. It suggests that there was once a global civilization that understood the Earth's true shape and its most remote corners. A civilization that might not have disappeared, but simply moved indoors as the ice began to reclaim the land. Musk's fascination with first principles thinking leads to a startling conclusion. If someone mapped Antarctica before the ice, they knew exactly where the most stable ground was located. When SpaceX's radar identifies anomalies in the Queen Maud Land region, the same area depicted with startling accuracy on the Piri Reis map, it isn't just a coincidence. It's a recovery mission. The map shows where the harbors used to be. Musk's satellites show that those same harbors now house massive, buried structures that defy natural explanation. We are taught that the discovery of Antarctica happened in 1820, but the Piri Reis enigma suggests we are victims of collective amnesia. We aren't discovering a new continent, we are remembering an old one. Elon Musk isn't just looking for extraterrestrials, he is looking for the pre-ice architects. By overlaying ancient cartography with 21st-century satellite telemetry, he has found the X on the map. The secret isn't just that aliens are there now, it's that they, or their predecessors, have been holding the deed to the continent since before the first pyramid was ever built. If the maps show a city, then the history books must be a fairy tale, the subglacial cities. If you were to descend through the 2-mile-thick ceiling of the East Antarctic ice sheet, you wouldn't find just frozen rock and stagnant mud. According to the data streams reportedly being analyzed at SpaceX, you would emerge into a series of gargantuan pressurized voids, atmospheric pockets the size of Manhattan, carved out by heat sources that have been steady for millennia. These are the subglacial cities, the urban anomalies that have remained invisible to the naked eye but glow like neon signs on Elon Musk's thermal imaging sensors. These aren't just caves. They are engineered environments, subterranean biomes where the laws of the surface world no longer apply. The architecture described in these leaked briefings doesn't resemble anything from the human catalog. There are no skyscrapers made of steel and glass, nor are there the cramped tunnels of a mining colony. Instead, the radar returns suggest structures grown rather than built, massive obsidian-like spires that act as thermal conductors, drawing heat from the Earth's mantle to keep the surrounding air at a constant, balmy temperature. These heat spires explain why Lake Vostok, a massive body of water buried under the ice, remains liquid despite being cut off from the sun for 15 million years. It isn't just geothermal luck, it's a climate-controlled habitat. Musk's interest here is purely logical. If you want to build a city on Mars, you have to solve the problem of the Great Filter, the tendency of civilizations to destroy themselves or be wiped out by cosmic events. A city under 2 miles of ice is the ultimate bunker. It is shielded from solar flares, asteroid impacts, and nuclear winter. For Elon, finding these cities isn't just a discovery, it's a masterclass in survival engineering. He isn't looking at them as a tourist, he's looking at them as a developer. The geometric patterns detected by Starlink suggest a layout optimized for energy efficiency, with streets that follow the flow of magnetic currents rather than the whims of a city planner. But who or what lives there? The creative writing of the Musk revelation suggests that these cities aren't inhabited by little green men from a distant star system, but by ultra-terrestrials, a branch of intelligence that moved underground during the last great planetary cataclysm. These are the beings that the Admiral Bird journals hinted at, the ones who operate the craft that move with such terrifying speed. The cities act as hangars for a technology that uses the Earth's own electromagnetic field for propulsion. By nesting within the ice, they have stayed out of the reach of human conflict, watching our rise and fall from the most secure basement on the planet. The scale of these structures is what truly boggles the mind. One specific anomaly, located near the Gambortsev subglacial mountains, appears to be a central hub, a grand central station of the Deep South. It spans over 30 miles in diameter. To put that in perspective, if that structure sat on the surface, it would be the largest man-made object in history. Under the ice, it is just a silent, pulsing heart. Musk's ground-penetrating radar has mapped tubes or corridors that connect these hubs, a subterranean hyperloop system that makes our modern transit look like a child's toy. The silence of the Antarctic is a mask. Beneath the howling winds and the shifting snow, there is a buzzing metropolis of activity that operates on a frequency we are only just beginning to tune into. Musk hasn't just found a secret, he's found a neighbor we never knew we had. The subglacial cities represent the ultimate plan B for a species, and as Elon pushes for the colonization of the stars, he is simultaneously obsessed with the civilization that conquered the inner world. He knows that the key to leaving Earth might actually be buried deep within it. Why the richest man is the gatekeeper depends on what he's willing to trade for the keys. The Musk connection. In the public arena, Elon Musk is a master of the no alien narrative. At every major conference, from the Milken Institute to his late-night X Spaces, he maintains a consistent, almost rehearsed line. I haven't seen any evidence of aliens. He often jokes that if he did, he'd be the first to tweet about it, because it would be the ultimate engagement bait for his platform. But for those who study power, Musk's public denial is the most convincing part of the cover-up. It is the classic gatekeeper strategy. By positioning himself as the ultimate skeptic, he becomes the only person the public trusts to deliver the news, which means he is the only one with the power to withhold it. The real Musk connection isn't found in what he says, but in what he builds. Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink are often viewed as separate companies, but in the context of Antarctica, they form a cohesive ecosystem for colonization and discovery. Tesla's advancements in battery density and thermal management aren't just for California highways, they are for surviving months of total darkness in sub-zero temperatures. Neuralink isn't just about helping the paralyzed, it's about high-bandwidth communication with intelligences that may not use sound or text. Musk is building a toolkit for a first contact that has already happened. Why would the military-industrial complex allow a private citizen to gatekeep the greatest secret in human history? Because Musk provides something the government lost decades ago: plausible deniability and rapid iteration. Under the 1959 Antarctic Treaty, no nation can claim the land or deploy weapons there. However, the treaty says nothing about a private corporation deploying telecommunications infrastructure. When SpaceX launches Starshield satellites into polar orbits, it isn't the government scanning for alien bases. It's a private company doing network maintenance. This loophole allows the Pentagon to see through Musk's eyes while keeping their hands clean of treaty violations. There is a concept in intelligence circles called the big trade. The theory suggests that Musk was given access to certain recovered technologies, specifically in materials science and vacuum propulsion, in exchange for building the infrastructure that would eventually disclose the truth to the public on a controlled timeline. This explains the quantum leaps in SpaceX's engineering that seem to defy standard R&D cycles. If Elon found a massive non-human energy source under the Gamburtsev Mountains, he wouldn't turn it over to a museum. He would study it, replicate it, and use it to fund his trip to Mars. Musk's connection to the Antarctic silence is also deeply personal. He has often described himself as a first principles thinker, and the most basic principle of our existence is whether we are alone. If he knows the answer is no, and that the neighbors are living right beneath our feet, it changes the mission of SpaceX from exploration to evacuation or integration. The urgency with which he pushes his teams, the hardcore work culture, isn't just about meeting quarterly targets. It's the behavior of a man who knows the clock is ticking. In this light, Musk is the middleman between an ancient terrestrial secret and a future celestial destiny. He is the only individual with the wealth, the hardware, and the platform to bridge the gap. When he tweets about the Fermi paradox, or the Great Filter, he isn't asking a question, he's giving us a hint. He is preparing our collective psyche for the day the shield is lowered, and we finally see the cities that have been humming beneath the ice for millions of years. The dark side of the moon versus ice. For decades, the public's imagination has been captured by the dark side of the moon. Conspiracy theorists and sci-fi writers alike have long suggested that a secret alien base resides in the lunar craters, watching Earth from a safe vacuum-sealed distance. But as Elon Musk's Starship begins to make lunar landings a commercial reality, the focus of the secret gatekeepers has shifted. Why bother hiding on a dusty rock 238,000 miles away when you can hide under 2 miles of solid ice right here on Earth? The dark side of the moon was the perfect red herring, a distant mystery that kept our telescopes pointed up, while the real anomalies were thriving at the bottom of our own world. In the engineering world, Musk often talks about mass-to-orbit ratios. Moving equipment to the moon is incredibly expensive and logistically fragile. However, moving equipment to the Antarctic interior, while difficult, is a matter of terrestrial logistics. The ice is actually a better shield than the moon. On the lunar surface, you are exposed to cosmic radiation, micrometeorites, and the prying eyes of every amateur astronomer with a high-powered lens. Under the Antarctic ice, you are protected by a thermal and physical barrier that is essentially impenetrable to traditional surveillance. Musk's realization, reportedly spurred by early Starlink telemetry, was that the signals weren't coming from deep space. They were echoing off the ionosphere from a terrestrial source in the south. This creates a fascinating parallel between the Apollo missions and Operation High Jump. While the world was told we were racing to the moon to beat the Soviets, the true technological prizes were being unearthed in the Transantarctic Mountains. Musk's recent push for a permanent base on the moon, the Moonbase Alpha concept, might actually be a cover for a much more terrestrial objective. By developing the technology to build pressurized habitats in the lunar vacuum, SpaceX is simultaneously perfecting the technology needed to expand into the subglacial voids of Antarctica. The hardware is nearly identical: airtight seals, independent oxygen recycling, and compact nuclear reactors. The dark side of the moon is a lonely place, but the ice is alive. While the moon offers only silence and regolith, the Antarctic anomalies show signs of active energy signatures and complex traffic patterns. Leaked data from SpaceX's Starshield program indicates that the UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena, frequently cited by military pilots, don't head for the stars when they vanish, they head for the poles. They are diving into the blue holes of the ice sheet. Musk's strategic pivot is simple. If you want to find the advanced tech that will take you to Mars, don't look at the dead moon. Look at the living ice. The dark side of the moon was the diversion. The white desert is the destination. Fact or theory, the revelation moment is coming, and we are not prepared for what was found. The final disclosure. The moment of disclosure won't come from a podium at the White House or a somber televised address from the United Nations. It will happen on a Tuesday afternoon via a massive, high-resolution data dump on X. The final disclosure is the breaking point where the creative writing of our theories meets the cold, hard facts of Musk's proprietary telemetry. According to the internal lore of this unfolding revelation, the smoking gun is a terabyte-scale video file captured by a Starlink-enabled drone hovering over the precise coordinates of the Bird anomaly. In the footage, the ice doesn't just crack or melt. It slides with a mechanical fluidity that suggests intent. It reveals a massive, iridescent aperture, a literal iris in the Earth, that leads directly into the pressurized thermal voids we discussed earlier. This is the shield Musk hinted at in his deleted post, a multi-layered defense system that utilizes the continent's own magnetic field to remain invisible to traditional human optics and satellite passes. What was found inside those shifting gates wasn't a laboratory or a military barracks in the way we understand them. It was something far more ancient and terrifying, a library. The radar returns and high-bandwidth optical scans suggest massive crystalline structures that store data at the molecular level, an archive of terrestrial and extraterrestrial history that predates the entire Homo sapien lineage. This is the ultimate prize of the Antarctic cover-up, the instruction manual for the solar system. For Musk, this is the definitive endgame. He didn't just find proof that we aren't alone, he found the cheat codes for interstellar travel, zero-point energy production, and planetary terraforming. The disclosure is the realization that we have been living in the backyard of a Titan, and the Titan just left the door unlocked. The footage shows craft not as metallic saucers, but as light-bending geometries that move through the water and ice, as if the medium itself were irrelevant. These are the same objects documented by the Navy in the Nimitz encounters, but seen here in their home port. Musk's role in this disclosure is to act as the linguistic and technological bridge, translating the impossible tech of the Antarctic voids into the possible tech of the SpaceX roadmap. The final reveal is that the cover-up wasn't just about hiding aliens. It was about hiding our own profound insignificance in the grand timeline of the Earth. We aren't the undisputed masters of this planet. We are the temporary tenants, the loud neighbors in the attic, who have finally discovered the landlord living in the basement. When the file finishes downloading on millions of devices, the world will see that the ice wall wasn't a cage to keep us in, but a curtain to keep us from looking at the stage before we were ready. Musk's strategic drip-feeding of this information is designed to prevent a global collapse of the social order. By framing it as a scientific discovery rather than an invasion, he maintains control over the narrative. The disclosure is a transition, not an ending. It is the moment the candle in the dark finally illuminates the entire room, and we realize the room is much, much larger and much more crowded than we ever imagined. Stay tuned as the ice continues to melt. Subscribe now to ensure you're the first to see the next leak, the next.